Hey everyone, welcome back to Launch Codes Football. My name is Chris.
And I'm Chris.
And I'm Chelsea.
And today we have a new host we're introducing, Mr. Chris P, here ready to give his hot takes to the world. He's had so many, guys. I want y'all to know he's had so many. So now he finally has a platform that he can use to get it all out. So tell us about yourself, Mr. Chris P.
I'm just a local boy, just a local Greensboro dude that cheers for the Chiefs, cheers for Danny Dimes, and let's go Mahomes.
Okay. So, and can you give a little backstory about why you're a Greensboro person that is cheering for the Chiefs?
It's all about fantasy, all about the fantasy draft. And one year I was getting into football, and I accidentally hit auto draft, and I drafted this dude named Patrick Mahomes. It was his second year coming to the Chiefs. Was on the bench, and this dude was projected to be a top pick. I got him, said, "Who in the world is this dude?" And he proceeded to drop 50 points after that. And after that, I became a Mahomes fan.
The rest is history, as they would say.
And by Mahomes fan, I mean has the jersey and everything. The
he
Chinese
really is.
jersey.
He is not exaggerating. His Chinese jersey looks incredibly authentic.
Honestly,
it's authentic.
I think that, in my opinion, that jersey was more than worth it, because to actually get a Mahomes jersey, you're spending triple digits. Whereas, didn't you get that thing for like $20 or something?
In US dollars, $20, yeah.
So honestly,
can't hate on that. I mean,
and if you were at like a Chiefs game or something, or a game where Mahomes is playing, no one can tell from afar.
That's true. The only one who knows is us. And now you, listener.
And there you go. So today we just wanted to welcome back everyone, because I know it's been a while, but we're excited because today we are going to talk about some fantasy football stuff, because we're all three in the same league here. And historically, I have not done that great a lot of times.
Yes, I agree.
We've also, Chris has introduced a soundboard, so we'll be getting some higher tech audio quality production. So yeah, I'm very excited for some of the things that's gonna happen from these podcasts.
Right, for sure. We are happy to be back. I mean, I know we took a little bit of a hiatus there. We had to get OG Chris married. We got new Chris engaged. Me, I'm the same, but we're back, baby.
Let's go.
Triple C.
Triple C.
We kind of said Chelsea should just legally change her name to Chris at this point, so we can have like a trinity of Chris's in this podcast.
I'm sure my husband would love that.
I mean, Chris can be a female name too. It's honestly, it goes.
I could be
ways.
Christine.
We did it.
Go by Chris. But anyway, let's get into our traditional fantasy rankings. These are not PPR based. These are traditional based, as that's what our league is this year. As Wiles mentioned previously, all three of us are in this league. So all of these rankings are going to be quite revealing for our draft on Friday, I dare say. But anyway, let's get into it. We will start with quarterbacks. So Wiles, you want to go first?
Actually, I think we should let the new host start up first. We need to get the audience see what they think of him. So
indeed. I gotcha.
What do you think?
We're starting off strong with these quarterbacks. Now, assessing last year, we had a great last year. Patrick Mahomes came off MVP, so he's MVP in my book. So we're putting him smack dab number one, coming off from being from the Super Bowl to having a great team around him. You can't stop him. I mean, take that, Jalen Hurts. Going to the second pick, we're going with Josh Allen. The reason why I picked him, he's just consistent on points. highly recommend if he's there for you, pick him ASAP, because he's going to give you that yardage, those touchdowns, and he's ruthless. Third is Action Jackson. The reason why he is picked is because he's going to score you touchdowns. Not can he throw the ball? He can run the ball. So when you see him, you can't. Fourth would be Jalen Hurts. Sorry you lost the Super Bowl. I am apologetic in that, but not really.
I really hear the sincerity there, Chris.
I mean, what can you do when you get picked off? I'm just saying. I mean, what more can you do? So he tried his best. Just get better next year, you know? But he's number 4 right now, and he has a great team. I will say he is an all-rounder, but also if you do pick him, be warned. His staff is not there to support him, and I think that might hurt him regarding his offensive and defensive coordinators. That will show. So, just saying. Then 5th, we have Tua. I mean, homeboy can either throw it to his tight end, throw it to his wide receivers, throw it to his running back. What more? All he can just do is just stay healthy and tell his OT, hey, protect me. So that's my top 5, and highly recommend if someone wants to use my top 5 projections.
I have any thoughts, Chris?
I think this is a good list, but I think, I live like an hour from Philly now, so I can smell like the hatred that they have from here. And so I feel like some of that hatred is going to be directed towards us after the Hurts comment. That's why I died laughing, honestly.
They're just hurting. I'm just sorry.
Oh, I was losing it as well, just so you know.
This is a good list, though. It makes sense. And although Tua at 5, I feel like that's the shocker that you put him at like above, I guess, like Rodgers this year and a few others. But I think it makes sense because when he was healthy, he was throwing dimes, and their offense was really good. But
you want to know my 6th?
Who's your 6th?
Danny Dimes.
Oh my word.
Okay, that is actually a hot take.
It's his breakout year. He's getting paid for a reason.
Okay,
we
for his
shall
sake,
see.
It better be his breakout year for his sake, because the Giants are like, well, we got no one else to pay, so here you go.
Here you go. Here's some money. I think that this is an interesting list. The little comment about you worrying about the Eagles' offensive capabilities around Jalen Hurts, I think is a hotter take than Jalen Hurts at 4. I think that the Eagles have one of the strongest offenses in the league. So I don't think he's going to struggle to score points or get touchdowns. However, I will say I agree that Tua up there, Tua does deserve to be there if he can stay healthy, because we know he can produce, right? So if he can stay healthy, I would put him relatively high as well. Josh Allen, we'll see where Josh Allen shows up in my rankings. We'll see when we get to that.
All right. Chelsea, do you want to go next for your quarterback list?
Sure. Okay, so let me preface, these are not the rankings that I have for like actually who's the best in real life, right? This is strictly based on fantasy. Number 1, I have Jalen Hurts because he's in a strong offense, because he's a strong passer, and because he runs a lot. He's going to get you rushing touchdowns. He's going to get you passing touchdowns. And generally speaking, he doesn't turn the ball over that much. So I have him at 1. Number 2, I have Lamar Jackson, mostly because of his rushing ability. He's going to get you touchdowns and yards on the ground, and he's also a pretty competent passer as well. So I have him at 2. Number 3, I have Mahomes. Mahomes can put up a lot of points without having to rush, though he is a scrambler. So it's not to say that he can't do that. However, I think just because he's not as pure of a runner as Hurts and Jackson, I put him 3rd just because of that, strictly for fantasy. Number 4, I have Joe Burrow. Again, like less of a scrambler than Mahomes, but still capable of putting up a lot of points with his arm, and obviously also in one of the strongest offenses in the league. And then number 5, okay, this is going to be a hot take, but hear me out, all right? This is strictly based on fantasy. Number 5, I have Justin Fields because he went off last year with his legs. He improved with his arm, and his offense has been upgraded this year, and he has a new coach. So I think that the probability of him being able to drop serious points, especially with his rushing ability, makes him a huge asset in fantasy. So, all right, now you know. So go ahead and just tear me apart. It's okay. I know. Go ahead.
A Bears quarterback being top 5 in fantasy, has that ever happened? Like in history, period?
Probably not.
So you're saying history will literally be made this year?
Yeah, if this ranking list stands to be accurate, I suppose.
I mean, he does make some incredible plays here and there. He's like,
and he has DJ Moore now, which is going to help him. So
he does have DJ Moore now. I don't know. I'm like, I could see him being pretty good.
I think he's going to take a step forward this year.
He's pretty good at running away.
Because he's running from a sack. Is that what you're saying?
You sure right. I just remember him getting smacked and him saying, "What can you do?"
That's true. But then he also made some pretty incredible things that would result in quite a lot of fantasy points. I mean, like I said, I know that fifth one is a hot take. I mean, I think that the top 4 are really not all that of a hot take. I mean, that's generally speaking. I know, notice Josh Allen is not in my top 5. Okay. I know he's in a strong offense.
That is hot.
I know he's on a strong team, but bro turns the ball over more than he should. And I am not trying to take point deductions for the 3 interceptions he throws along with his 5 touchdowns. Okay.
All right. Fair enough, I guess. Yeah. I mean, if Allen can stop throwing interceptions, like, he would have so much better, which, I mean, I guess that's everybody, but his is just exceptionally high.
If Allen threw interceptions like Mahomes throws interceptions, which is not that frequently, he would be in the top 5.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, Mr. Chris, I suppose it's your turn.
So my quarterback rankings, I actually put Allen at 1 because I do feel like he has the receivers and the team around him to just put up monster fantasy points. And depending on how your league is, I think different leagues can change how much interceptions impact you. In our case, I think it's okay. I think it's very possible that he is the number 1 fantasy quarterback. I think Mahomes is a solid 2. I think Mahomes also doesn't have to have these monster numbers for his team to win. So that's why I think he'll still be high up there, but I don't know necessarily that he'll be number 1 because he doesn't really have to go out there and do that. I feel like a lot of times when it's the number 1 fantasy QB, they're like really trying hard to get those big numbers, or because their team really needs them to get those numbers. So that's just what I think. Jalen Hurts at 3. I think he's still a very solid pick. Yes, they don't have quite the weapons that they do, but I think he's grown as a QB a lot. And he has learned, and you can see that his game has just gotten better. So assuming he didn't, just, sit around and mope about the Super Bowl loss this whole summer, I think he will be at number 3. Number 4, no one seems to believe, but I put Rodgers on there.
That is spicier than Fields at 5.
You think so? Like,
that's pretty big. That's a pretty big jump.
I think Rodgers, because he has a new staff and, maybe he's done some like rejuvenation in some cave somewhere out there that's like turned him 10 years younger. Who knows?
That is entirely probable for him.
I think he'll actually be a pretty good fantasy QB this year. I think the team is really going to rally around him, and I think he's going to score some big points. If he fails, I mean, I'm not really that upset. It's the Jets, and, it'll be entertaining no matter what. One thing we do know with bad franchises is that it's hard to get rid of the losing smell. So, if anything...
I can't wait to see Zach Wilson week 3.
Week 3, dang. Is that your hot take?
That's spicy.
Kidding. But I actually do think Rodgers will have a very good year. And so that's why I put him at 4. And then 5 is Burrow. I think Joe Burrow, always has the potential to be the best fantasy QB, but the only thing is that, you know, you can't be at the top every single year. And so, but I do think Burrow, I mean, he'll put up really good stats this year. I'm not really too worried about him. The only thing is, though, their team randomly goes through periods where they just suck. Like, remember the beginning even of last year, how like they were giving up an all-time amount of sacks. I think one time Burrow got sacked 8 times in a game. So maybe that's part of the reason I didn't want to put him at 1, because it's like they have random stretches where they look terrible, but then all of a sudden they'll turn on and win 35-7 or whatever. So yeah, that's my top 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Rodgers at 4 is definitely spicy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that Rodgers will rebound a little bit with the Jets from how he was last year, because he definitely regressed last year with the Packers. So I think being somewhere new will help him, but I don't think it's going to catapult him back to like his MVP caliber or anything.
If we're going to roast Rodgers, I got to say it. You know, this is like putting a Band-Aid over a major wound that they've been trying to heal for the past couple decades now. And if he does well, good, great for him. But the thing is, Rodgers coming in, he's not his younger self. Yes, he might have experience, and as we've seen Tom Brady, he did really well. But you're talking to a GOAT, the greatest of all time quarterback, Tom Brady, to Aaron Rodgers, you know, who's a young team. They're just starting out, to the Buccaneers, who wide receivers have had lots of years under the experience. Like, that's a crazy hot take, but I like it.
So what you're saying is Jets 0-17, the first team to ever do it. Is that what you're saying?
No.
That would be pretty laughable.
That I would love for that to happen, but I mean they'll win a few games with Zach Wilson. Don't get it wrong, but I think they'll put Zach Wilson in, and Aaron Rodgers he'll retire, sip his little pina colada in the background as he sees the young blood.
I guess only time will tell.
So he is calling, though, that Rodgers is about to get benched. That is, I think that's spicier than what I said. But
yeah, I think that's spicier than Rodgers at 4 for sure. Well, Mr. Chris P, you want to go on and transition into your top 5 running back rankings?
Sure. So my running backs, some of them I've put down for PPR. If you are picking, I know this is a traditional, but for those who are using a PPR, I do have that sort of ranking around that. But my first pick is going to be Nick Chubb, big boy Nick Chubb. Now, I've picked him throughout the couple of years, and he has been consistent every single time, from the top 5 to top 3 to top 10, but still helps out with fantasy. He is the most consistent he will ever be for a running back. It's very rare that he gets injured, so I would pick him over Christian McCaffrey, who is second in my pick. And he's picked because of the PPR yardage. He can receive, he can run, all arounder. The reason why he's not number 1 is because he does the 49ers. Don't get me wrong, but they have a lot of running backs they like to use. And yes, McCaffrey will be utilized, but he has a team now, so he doesn't have to carry like he was doing on the Carolina Panthers. Third, Derrick Henry. We have big boy, the brick wall himself. He's been consistent. He's an all-rounder. He can demolish, as you can see, his defenders, and he's going to break your fantasy losses if you are losing every year, like Wiles. But for Saquon Barkley, we have Saquon Barkley on number 4. He is a risky player. He's a make or break. He has thick legs that can run, but also has an old line that cannot block. So if you want to risk it for the biscuit, I would pick Saquon Barkley 4th. 5th, now there's a lot of controversy here and a lot of talk around him lately. Recently, he has held out and I picked him in his rookie year.
That
And
is not entirely true, just a side note, but continue.
Correct. But my fifth would be Jonathan Taylor. The reason why, he's a young player. He's very fast, very power back, and is going to get yardage no matter who's in front of him. And I'm excited to see where this trade, if this does happen, and if he does get traded, I think I'm really excited to see where this takes him. It might break his career, it might not, but I hope he goes to the Dolphins, because that would definitely throw a wrench in everyone's fantasy draft.
That's true.
Okay. I respect this list. I think that it makes sense. Yeah, Jonathan Taylor's the big question mark. It's like he's either going to be very, very good, or he's going to be sitting out for a few weeks. And then it's like, is it even worth taking him if he's missed 3-4 weeks? I was the one who picked Le'Veon Bell back a few years ago with the number 2 pick. That was the worst fantasy decision I've ever made, period. Biggest bust of all time in fantasy. Let's see, Nick Chubb being one. I think that's interesting, but you're right. Like, he's not really hurt that often.
Plus, he doesn't have to compete with Kareem Hunt anymore.
True. And they kind of like desperately need him in Cleveland.
He like carries their offense. So.
Oh man.
He's going to do big things. He's going to do big things. I mean,
he's going to carry Deshaun.
Probably. Because he also has large legs and squats quite a lot. So he probably could carry Deshaun if he wanted to.
Yeah, he does. Especially last year.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, what you got, Chelsea?
All right. So for my top 5, number 1, I have McCaffrey. I'm aware of the injury risk as we've seen what has happened in Carolina. But I think, generally speaking, he's going to get you the most points because he's not just a rusher. I know this isn't PPR rankings, but even still, you do get points for catches in traditional leagues for running backs. You don't get as many, obviously. It's like point something or whatever. But I still have him, even with the injury risk. Him being in a backfield where they have lots of options may actually end up being to his benefit, because he may actually end up getting more goal line than he would otherwise, which will result in touchdowns. Number 2, I have Josh Jacobs. Now, people are going to see this and they're going to go, what? Josh Jacobs, he's on a terrible team. Like, what are you doing? Josh Jacobs went off last year on a terrible team, and he still has pieces on offense. And I know Derek Carr's gone now, but he's good enough to still go off. And I think he's very reliable in fantasy, because I got a notification today that he is not going to be holding out and that he's going to be showing up to the team. So as long as that holds true and he doesn't hold out, I think he's fairly reliable. Number 3, I have Nick Chubb. Kind of the same reasoning as Chris P. I mean, he's just very reliable. He doesn't get injured that lot. He's not competing against Kareem Hunt anymore, so he will probably get even more carries than he's ever gotten in his career. So he's going to get a lot of workload. Number 4, my apologies, I have Saquon Barkley. I think he's in an upgraded offense, and I think that he's a big contributor to it having success. Plus, he doesn't really have anyone he's competing against as long as he stays healthy. So the vast majority of the rushing snaps are going to come from him. Plus, he can catch the ball also. Number 5, this might be a little bit hot, and I don't think that this is where he belongs in real life rankings, but I'm going to go with Austin Eckler, because he is a better fantasy back than he is an actual back in real life. Now, don't get me wrong. He's good in real life. He's probably, top 15 in real life. But in fantasy, bro goes off in fantasy every year. If you look at the historical data behind Eckler in fantasy, he looks like he should be a much better running back in real life, but he is not. He's just really good at fantasy. So I would take him at 5. Obviously, he's not my first choice. And obviously, I put him in over Jonathan Taylor, which I'm a Colts fan. So you're probably wondering, well, why would you do that? You're a Colts fan. Jonathan Taylor is a top 3 back when he's healthy. Yes, I agree. Thank you for agreeing with me. I am just weary of his contract situation right now. So for that reason, and for his minor injuries he's dealing with, I'm going to keep him out of the top 5. But if he was healthy and he wasn't holding out and he was happy where he was, he would definitely be in the top 5 for me, but he's just not at this present time. So, all right, I got Austin Ekeler at 5. I saw your facial reaction, so go ahead.
I mean, if you want to, I don't like to play safe, and Eckler is a safe player if you want consistent yardage. But the thing is, like, you're out there to win it. You want a dude that like breaks down the doors, and I think like you don't even have Derrick Henry, who has been consistent throughout the top 5.
No, I don't, because he's on a terrible offensive team.
But they're going to run him into the ground, and that's the
But
best
his line
point.
is terrible, like awful.
That's with like Saquon Barkley.
I know. I mean, I know I kept him out of the top 5. He'd probably be 6 or 7 on my list if we kept going. But his team, his offense is terrible. Like the worst that it has been since he has gotten there. Like it's bad. So will they run him into the ground? Probably, but it might be running him into the ground with a bunch of 3-yard runs. So
what do you think, Chris?
Yeah, that Austin Ekeler thing, that was certainly a take. If you saw me on my phone, I'm just looking at his stats from last year. They're certainly not bad. I know he's had some injury issues, but dang, at top 5 over Derrick Henry, over a healthy Derrick Henry, like, because we're assuming all these players are going to be healthy, right? Which, I mean, obviously won't
that's the
probably
assumption.
happen, but man.
Like I wouldn't pick Eckler. I would put Najee Harris over Eckler anytime, but
that's some
Dang.
baloney, bro. He is not good.
Not dang.
Look at his
writing him
yards
off
per
saying
carry.
not.
Look at his yards per carry last year. They were terrible.
Okay, well, I mean, if it works out, great. But man, that is certainly a take. But I think Josh Jacobs and Josh Jacobs above Nick Chubb is a little high for me because Josh Jacobs is also on a terrible team. So you could make the same argument for him that it could end up like Derrick Henry. They're just going to run Josh Jacobs into the ground.
That's fair.
I like it though. I
like it. We're spicy here. That's what we like. So honestly,
I can't wait to see Eckler.
He's gonna be number
one. Watch Eckler get
or...
hurt week 1. Oh Rip my fantasy rankings.
It's either he's gonna be number 1 or it's gonna be like hurt week 1. So there's no in between.
Yup.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I guess it's my turn then. So
he says reluctantly.
I have a different list comparatively.
You thought my list was... Bruh. Go ahead.
Mine is not that egregious in my opinion.
It is, but go ahead.
It is not. Okay, whatever. All right. So my number 1 is Derrick Henry. I think that's a safe pick. I think it makes sense. If he's healthy, he's going to score a lot of points. I'm not really worried about him. Even if he has a bad line, which, I mean, it's not going to help, I think he'll be fine. Nick Chubb at number 2. Chubb is a monster. He can run the ball. He can do it all in Cleveland. And to be honest, they're going to need him to do a lot because Deshaun is not the same Deshaun that he was in Houston, in my opinion. Maybe he's better than last year, but I don't know. I don't know, man. That's tough. Number 3 is Christian McCaffrey. I think he has the potential to be a 1 here. Like Chris said, especially when you run in a PPR league. But I think that the only thing is they use a lot of offensive players. I mean, they have so many on that team. They have people like George Kittle. They have Debo. They have they use multiple running backs as they keep going. So honestly, Ayuk and Juszczyk, like all of these guys. So that's why I think he'll be one of the key points. I think he could still be at number 3, but I don't think he'll be number 1 overall in all fantasy stats. Number 4, I'm going to go with Travis Etienne. And Etienne, okay, I'm getting judgment for this, but you have to think about it. Doesn't it happen every year in fantasy? Some random people that you don't really expect to pop off start popping off. And I think Travis Etienne has shown that he can do that. And Jacksonville will probably improve this year. And Etienne will, I think, be a very big reason of why. Because Trevor, while I think he's getting better, I think that still they're going to be thinking that the thing with Trevor is that he throws a lot of picks. He's kind of like, he's either on and throwing 4 TDs or he's off and throwing 4 picks. Like even that playoff game that the Chargers choked, Trevor looked awful for most of it. And like he was, let's be straight here, he was terrible for a lot of it, but they did get it done. But I think that I think he'll be better this year, but I do think Etienne will kind of be that guy that can help calm their offense down and be consistent and reliable. And I could see him having a big year this year. And then 5th, I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker, the 3rd. He was really good last year for Seattle, especially when they actually let him run the football. And the coach, Mr. Carroll, I think finally started to realize that and was like, hey, I can use this guy. Look, he'll be in his 2nd year, so he's very young. And a lot of times it's the young running backs that do the best. Let's just be real here. That's the whole controversy and debate about paying them or not, because, you know, by the time you're in your 4th year, teams want to like move on to the next one. So Kenneth Walker is still in that. He's in his 2nd year. And I think Seattle has a chance to be decently good. Maybe not amazing, but I think their offense is going to rely a lot on him and DK Metcalf. So that's why I think he has a pretty decent chance at popping off to be the 5th best running back in fantasy this year.
Wow. That was something. And you guys thought Eckler at 5 was spicy over Kenneth Walker? Come on, man. Wow. I mean, there's no denying that Kenneth Walker was good last year. I mean, he was. He was a really vital piece of that Seattle offense last year. But I think you can be a vital piece and also not be top 5. And the same with Etienne. I think there's a better argument for Etienne to be in the top 5. I mean, Bro was a major contributor in their offense as well. And he's still growing. However, I will say I got a report that apparently they really like their rookie running back that they took. And apparently they may be splitting carries between him and Etienne. And if that's the case, Etienne is going to lose a whole lot of value. Now, for all we know, that just might be smoke and Etienne might get 95% of the carries because he's just that good. But him at 4, oh my word. Chris P, what do you think?
It's bold. What can you say? It's a bold take. I'm kind of thinking Etienne did do a lot, but you also we forget some key players here. I'm surprised going over it through this year. Miles Sanders was on your list. I mean, you're a Panthers fan, and Miles Sanders coming off of a hot streak from the Eagles to the Panthers. I'm surprised you put Kenneth over Miles Sanders, who actually did something. So this is a bold take. I am surprised, but not really at the end of the day. If you want to take those players, go for it. I'll see you at the bottom of the leaderboard.
Yeah, Wiles, you should take Kenneth Walker at 2 or at 1 where you're drafting. Yeah, since you're so high on him.
I put him at 5, not 1. Hear me out.
Okay. But would you take him at 1? Just out of curiosity. If held at gunpoint, per se. Just kidding.
If held at gunpoint, who's trying to shoot me? Anyways, here's
I'm
the
just
thing.
teasing, bro.
No, there is this part of me that wants to meme really hard in our fantasy league and just pick the most out of place.
You got to pick Vance McDonald Wiles. We all know who you're gonna pick.
He's retired.
No,
he's retired. They took him off. He didn't even put down his letter of retirement. He literally is just gone.
He disappeared.
We could get Tom Brady back.
Oh gosh, please no.
Knowing Tom Brady, I don't think it's unfathomable to be honest.
Some team is like, we need a playoff run. And
it's called the Jets.
Bring him in.
Oof.
The Jets.
Oof.
Stop. If that happened, Oh my gosh. Anyways,
Let's
Right.
go ahead and transition into our wide receiver rankings. I feel like kind of looking at the ones that I see, I feel like these are the least controversial so far of all of these. So, Mr. Chris P, why don't you go ahead with yours?
All right. So my wide receivers, these are not too much hot takes. They are consistent players in my eyes and up and rising stars. So number one, we have Justin Jefferson, good old JJ. He is an unstoppable player. Now his quarterback is sus and makes me wonder if he can get it there. But Justin, all he has to do is reach out with his arms and grab it. And he's done that in the past. I have seen that versus the Colts.
All right.
Sorry, Chelsea. But
Ouch.
when I went to bed and saw it was 0 to, what was it, 28-34 or something like that?
I don't remember.
31-0.
I've erased
And-
the memory from my
and
brain
then-
due
it
to
was
the pain it caused
31-0.
me.
And then all of a sudden I got woken up and my friend says, the game's real close. I said, is it a different game? And it says, no, it's the Colts. And I look back and I just see Justin Jefferson just doing his little thing on the field, grabbing balls and scoring. So he's an unstoppable player. And I can't wait to see him. Second,
To be fair, I fell asleep during that game as well and woke up much more disappointed than you did, just for the record.
number 2 is good old Cheetah, Tyreek Hill, ex-Chief player. And he plans to burn us this year, but I don't think so. But he is fast, freaky fast, and delivering you the points for fantasy. He will catch balls when you want it, and he is just very consistent every year. And I can't wait for Tua to throw it to him. And third, we have Jamar Chase. Now, this boy, he tore up the Chiefs defense, like tore up. We could not stop him. We couldn't cover him. Whatever he did, he was out there by himself, essentially. I cannot wait to see this boy play. He is definitely third, strong. Whatever you want from him, he'll deliver. Fourth, Stephon Diggs. Now, he is a little shaky at times. He might drop 10 points for you. He might drop 4. Depends on the day. He might drop 40. It really depends. And so this is something that if you want a team that might be able to chance it, he is a great player for you. I'm heavily would recommend for you to pick him. Now, fifth. Now, I know I talk smack about Aaron Rodgers, but his wide receiver core is really young and really good. And showing up on my fifth is Garrett Wilson. And he is heavily a potential rising star. I mean, I saw him last year. He is very, very proven himself that he can be either the number 1 or slot. And he can get yardage if Aaron Rodgers can get it to him. That's the one thing that I'm scared for. So that's my top 5. I think they're strong. I think they are dependable, but also not too out there. What do y'all think?
I think that the top 4 are pretty standard, generally speaking. Yeah, Garrett Wilson at 5 is a take, though. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think he's going to be really good. And I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to even raise his ceiling higher than it is now. But I don't know if it's to the degree of him being over some of the other guys that could have been at 5.
Yeah,
like I feel like Garrett Wilson is like a strong flex pick.
I think he's a superstar, rising star in a way. He might be a bust. He might not, but that's the best part. You never know.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be a bust. I mean, he's coming out of Ohio State, so I mean, he has the potential, the strength, and the skills to be able to succeed, and he's already had success. So it's not that I think he's bad. I mean, you put him in there over a couple of different guys that I probably would have put above him. But I mean, you're right. If he's going to break out this year, it's going to be with an arguable Hall of Fame quarterback. Regardless of if he regresses or not, that guy, even if he regresses on the field, is going to be able to increase Garrett Wilson's like knowledge and how much he knows the game and stuff like that. So it can only help him. So it'll be interesting to see his progression for sure.
I agree with 1 through 5, honestly. And I agree with 1 through 4, and I think 5 makes sense. I'm also the one who said Aaron Rodgers would have a good year, or one of a top 5 year. So, take that into consideration. But also, I do think Garrett Wilson, he is good. He just has had no one to throw it to him for the past few years. And what are you going to do? You can't throw the ball to yourself. So, yeah, I actually agree with this list. I think it makes sense. I have no problems with this list.
Wow, for once we're agreeable. Look at that.
Look at us. Who'd have thought?
I say for once we're agreeable, aka Chris and Chris. I'm just over here, but that's fine.
All right, Chelsea, what do you think?
All right, so for me, I have Justin Jefferson at 1. Honestly, I don't really think it's much of an argument at this point. I think that he's the best receiver in the league. I think that Kirk Cousins is better than people paint him out to be, but I do not think that he's top 10. So do with that as you will. I think he's fringe top 10, which is not bad by any stretch, but he's not Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or Josh Allen. Number 2, I have Jamar Chase. Again, I think that Chase at 2 is pretty unarguable also. He's in a really strong offense. I know he's competing against T. Higgins for snaps and for catches, but Chase is just so good. He's still going to get them, even if he's in a loaded offense. Number 3, I have Tyreek Hill. Again, strong offense. I know that he's also competing for snaps against another very speedy friend of ours. But again, I just think he's too good to not get the production that warrants him being a strong wide receiver 1. Number 2, this might seem like a hot take to some, but I really don't think it is. I'm going to go with A.J. Brown. I think that he is the bona fide wide receiver 1 in Philadelphia, and I think he gets the most looks by Hurts. And he scores a lot of touchdowns because he's a big red zone target. So that'll equate to a lot of fantasy points. And then number 5, might be a little bit spicy, but it's really not if you think about talent level. I have Cooper Kupp at 5. The only reason I have him that low is because he's currently dealing with an injury, but bro won the Triple Crown a couple of years ago and people have already forgotten. Like if Cooper Kupp is healthy, he's arguably number 1 in the league. That's how good he is when he's healthy and he's in a strong offense. The only thing is his offense is bad now, which is not to his benefit. And he's also dealing with an injury right now, whether it be minor or not, it's still an injury that he's going to have to work through, which are always tough on receivers. So, but people forget how good he was a couple of years ago. Like he won the Triple Crown for a reason. He was incredibly, incredibly good. And I think he still has the potential to really carry at the wide receiver 1 position in fantasy.
I like it. I really like it. I will say AJ Brown, I'd actually debated on putting him on there because he was such a good player last year. And he was just a great target for Jalen Hurts just to throw it. And he just was spectacular. And I think that's a great pick. I think the top 3 you have are wonderful. They're consistent, solid. Cooper Kupp, I hope his injury, prayers for him to get better. I think if he can stay healthy, he destroy his competition out there. But at the end of the day, I personally want to pick him. But if he was healthy, I would think about it.
Yeah, that's why he's at 5 for me. I would only take him if he was like 100% healthy.
Yeah.
But again, kind of like with Weil said about putting Aaron Rodgers in his top 5, how he liked Garrett Wilson, I could not put Jalen Hurts at 1 and then not include AJ Brown. Like AJ Brown is one of the reasons that Jalen Hurts is as good as he is. So
Correct.
It wouldn't be accurate if he was not in my top 5. And it's not to say that he doesn't compete against snaps too. I mean, he goes against Devontae Smith, who's very talented in his own right. But AJ Brown was a monster with the Titans, and the Titans were bad. So now that he's on an actual good team with a strong offense, I think he has the potential to be even better this year than he was last year in his first year with them.
I agree. What do you think, Chris?
Honestly, I think most of this makes sense. AJ Brown is the only one I kind of disagree with. I honestly think people like Devontae Smith will probably score more points for fantasy, but I think the rest of this makes sense. Cooper Kupp, you're right. He has the potential to be literally the best and have the most fantasy points. But again, when a team literally can't physically get the football to him, what are you supposed to do? You can't do anything about that. So, but the rest of this list makes sense. I think Tyreek actually could be number one, but they need a healthy Tua. If they don't play him well, he has a concussion and he's out there, looking drowsy. So
That's true.
Yeah, that's what I think about this.
All right. I suppose it's your turn now.
So my number one is JJ, Mr. Jefferson, Mr. Gritty himself. I really think that just speaks for itself. Jamar Chase is too. Honestly, these two are like neck and neck, though. Like, honestly, either of them could outdo each other. So it's a very, very close 1 and 2. Tyreek Hill, as we kind of talked about. All three of them are going to be close, in my opinion. All three of them, no matter who you pick, I think is going to be a good choice, assuming that no injuries or anything. Diggs is going to be my 4. I do think, yes, sometimes he puts out a disappointing fantasy week, but I think that if Josh Allen can just take care of the football better this year, and get it to him, like Diggs, when you throw it to him, he's going to get it. Like, he's going to go up, he's going to score, and he's not afraid of any team. And so that's why I think that. And I think that my 5th was changed on here for some reason, but I don't know why that happened. But now here's the part where we throw a random hot take in there. Give me Odell Beckham Jr. I'm kidding.
Give me Odell Beckham Jr. 5 years ago.
5 years ago. If we can import him from when he was on the Giants, his like rookie year. No,
Bro,
actually, hear me out. Actually, DJ Moore. If we're saying that Justin Fields is going to pop off the way that he is, he's going to need DJ Moore to pop off. And so I think that DJ Moore is going to have a really good year. DJ Moore has been very good for a long time, but no one's noticed it because, one, again, people can't physically get the football to him. You know how many times he was open for scores in the past few years he's been for the Panthers, and then the quarterback just whiffs the throw. You know how many times that happened? I watched it happen so much. I was like, gee, if someone could just get this man the football in his hands. If you literally watch, this is an amazing fact if you guys don't know about this. The last game of the year in week 18, the Panthers and Saints played. And did you know that Sam Darnold had the worst QBR in a win to ever be done? Ever, like in all of NFL history, no one's had a worse QBR in a game and won than Sam Darnold. There were literally plays where DJ Moore was wide open downfield and Darnold just whiffed. He would throw the ball and just whiff on the throws. So I'm like, man, this guy, he would literally blow this game out of the water if they could just get the football to them. It's incredible, honestly.
You know, I have a thought on that, but I kind of can't say it because I put Fields at 5. And don't get me wrong, I think that DJ Moore is going to be better on the Bears because I think he actually has a competent quarterback now. And I think he's going to be a huge contributor to Justin Fields' success. And I think that if he doesn't play well, Justin Fields is not going to play great. Like, he really needs him to show up and do well. But let's not forget all the balls that DJ Moore dropped last year and the dumb penalties that he had that lost games. I mean, he was open a lot and he's really good, but DJ Moore made some pretty big blunders last year with the Panthers. And I just hope that he can kind of restrain himself in a bit more this year, especially to have success with Justin Fields.
Like when, though? Or
remember, it was the game where was it a premature celebration or something that he like did something and it didn't count and it was a penalty and it was like one of the biggest reasons they lost the game. Like, bro needs to like rein his temper in.
No, that did count. That was when he caught the Hail Mary. He took his helmet off And technically it shouldn't have been called. And actually the NFL went back and said, oh yeah, that shouldn't have been called. He wasn't mad.
Even
he was
still,
just
though, I
celebrating.
mean, outside of that instance, there have been other instances of him doing things that have kind of been dumb. And that's not a reflection on his skill as a wide receiver, but he has had some pretty significant drops. I mean, my husband is a huge Panthers fan, and the amount of times that I was sitting next to him and he was complaining about DJ Moore and how he could not catch the ball was just Now, don't get me wrong. I think he'll be better this year. And I think generally speaking, he doesn't drop too many balls. But there were a lot of times last year where they really needed him to do that. And he just didn't.
Fair. But
He'll be a great
also-
DJ, but I really think, I mean, that's a hot take right there in itself. Like, and I have to agree, Fields, if he doesn't do well, he's a Sam Darnold 2.0. I'm running out of the pocket. And I saw that last year. He ran out of the pocket and he had to, or he was going to get sacked. And if that improves, they're going to be great. They're going to be a great duo. But I also see Fields as such a young quarterback. It's going to be hard and difficult for him just to see where's DJ Moore. Along with that. So I will say that is a definitely hot take, but DJ Moore, you never know. I would put him on the lower spectrum of he might not be potentially a consistent player, but he might. That's if you want to have a spicy team that might do well, might not, go for it. But that's something that's crazy.
I agree.
There you go. Okay.
We love the spice, Chris.
Yes,
I like it. Yeah, it's good. I think it's a good list. I personally wouldn't take him if he was there, but if it was him and Metcalf, I would take Metcalf. They're all almost equally the same in a way. But that being said, I'll transition into going to the tight ends. Right now, I mean, I put Patrick Mahomes up really high, and he has a great offense, and who contributes to that offense? Travis Kelce. And the reason why I pick him, Mahomes, we all know who he's going to throw to. Is it going to be his wide receiver 1? Nah. Is it going to be his wide receiver 2? Nah. Is it going to be his running back? Nah. But the big boy himself, Travis Kelce, he's just ridiculous. And I think he's going to have pop off this year from being a Super Bowl champ to the second Super Bowl now in a row. Second in my list is Mark Andrews. Now, we forget this boy, he had a rough year last year. Don't get me wrong. But also, Lamar Jackson also had a rough year too. But I think if they can get it all together, Mark Andrews is going to be consistent. I mean, he was up there with Kelce 2 years ago, and he's been inconsistent. But I also think this year is Lamar Jackson's year and also Mark Andrews' year. Third is George Kittle. I mean, overall, what can you do? Purdy's throwing it right to him. Touchdown. Fourth, Darren Waller. I mean, this big boy, he's a big boy, and he's with the Giants. And guess who's throwing it to him? Danny Dimes. And I really think Danny's going to need some help on some offense, and he's going to throw it to Darren Waller. Fifth, now, I know this person or this team doesn't have an amazing quarterback. Don't get me wrong. But Kyle Pitts is my fifth. The reason why is because he had a rough year last year. He didn't even get targeted really because he was just running, trying to get out of the sacks. And really, just like you were saying, Chris, how can you target him when you're running away? So I think Kyle Pitts, this is his year with Bijan Robinson as a running back, but Kyle Pitts, he's the man. So those are my top 5. What do y'all think?
So this might be a spicy reaction, but I don't have George Kittle in my top 5, but not because of talent. I think that talent-wise, he definitely is, but I took him and he was hurt the whole year, bro. He cannot stay healthy. And they have so many weapons in that offense. I'm afraid to take him now. And it's not a reflection of his talent. It's a reflection of the fact that he was literally hurt for most of the year.
That's crazy. That's
That is
absolutely
insane.
crazy.
That makes no sense.
That's like saying McCaffrey, you know, he gets injured, but he's not on the top 5. That's like,
like I said, it's not a reflection of talent. It's a reflection of fantasy value. If someone's hurt all year, their fantasy value drops.
I think with Big Brock, I think he'll be just fine.
Big Brock, yes,
because he's pretty in my eyes.
Outside of that, I think that the other 4 are fine. Also, ha.
Look. I think, I agree with most of this list, although I would put Kyle Pitts above Darren Waller. But you also said that Danny Dimes is going to pop off this year. So I guess in that case, fair. And to some extent, I think Kyle Pitts is very talented, but it depends a lot on how Desmond Ridder does. So I still feel like I would take Pitts over Waller.
I think
that's
Waller,
fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think they can be used interchangeably if you prefer one or the other.
Yeah. But other than that, looks fine. Nothing crazy on here.
What is yours list, Chelsea?
So for me, I have Kelsey at 1. Again, really not much of an argument. He's obviously Mahomes' favorite target. And he is already a Hall of Famer, I think, based on his career so far. So, I mean, it's really not really much of an argument. Number 2, I have Mark Andrews. I think that talent-wise, he is up there. I think he is strongly paired with Lamar. He has had injury concerns in the past as well. But with tight ends, once you get past like 7 or 8, you're really not looking too good for tight ends. So I have Mark Andrews at 2. 3, I have Kyle Pitts. Like you were saying, Chris, it's going to be very dependent upon how Desmond Ridder does. But with how quiet of a year Pitts had in his first year, I think that he's going to make a lot more noise in his second year. And I think that his offense has gotten a lot stronger since last year, at least positionally speaking. Perhaps not the quarterback, but with the addition of Bijan Robinson, and you have Drake London as well, along with other pieces like Chris Lindstrom on their line, I think that they have improved their offense. Number 4, I have Darren Waller. I think Darren Waller is going to be a huge part of the Giants offense, and I think he's going to have to really perform to show up for Daniel Jones to have real success. And then number 5, casuals might think that this is spicy, but it is not. I have Evan Ingram at 5. If you look at the Jaguars' stats last year, Trevor Lawrence loved him and targeted him a lot. And I think that he's going to still have a huge impact this year, especially in the red zone. And he's more of a veteran, so he has a lot of experience, and he's operating in an improved offense. So I don't think as much of like the coverage, I don't think as much there's going to be as many eyes on him, especially with Calvin Ridley coming back into that offense. I think most teams are probably going to target him the most. And I'm thinking that because of that, there are going to be more opportunities for Evan Ingram to get more yardage. So I'm going to put him at 5. I think the Jaguars are almost a playoff lock this year. I think they're going to be pretty good. And I'm saying that as a Colts fan who does not want to admit that the Jaguars are good. They've been bad my whole life, but I would be blind if I saw that their team was bad. Like, they have a good team. And I think that Evan Ingram is going to be a real contributor to that, especially as Trevor Lawrence continues to progress, continues to, cut his fumble problems, and continues to try and rely. I think that veteran leadership and that veteran experience is going to be a real beneficial thing for Trevor Lawrence.
I think it's a great list. I think Evan Ingram, he's a good player, young talent. I don't know why, as a Daniel Jones fan, I don't know why for the Giants to get rid of a young player, a tight end like him, and say, hey, we're tired of him. He did great for Daniel Jones, and said, hey, let's get rid of him. And he's proving that he is a capable player. And then I think he will do great. I think these are good picks. And I think you're right. With Mark Andrews, his injury prone, it could be something that is vital, but also normally it's very. I don't see back-to-back tight ends coming back and saying and dropping. I would be very surprised if Mark Andrews got injured again, because that's coming to a point of like most people won't pick him next year. And I hope that it won't happen. I hope he pops off and does his best this year. But I think this is a good list.
Yeah, I agree with this. I think that the list makes sense. Nothing crazy. Evan Ingram's like iffy for me because I feel like the Giants just really didn't use him well, or like, because he was really known for his speed, but I don't know. Giants have had weird things with their offense for the past few years, but that's the only one I'm a little bit questionable on. But other than that, I mean, makes sense overall. I don't think this is anything absolutely insane. So,
and I know what some people are going to say. They're going to say, how on earth do you not put George Kittle on there? Like I said earlier, I have taken him in fantasy and he has done bad for me, and I am afraid of him. It is not a reflection of how good of a player he is or how good of an offense he operates within. It is a reflection of, I have taken him before and I am scarred, so now I will not take him unless I am forced to.
Yeah, since we already argued you on George Kittle, there's no use doing it again. But
yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, anyways. But we'll go into finally my tight end list. And so number 1 is Travis Kelce. It makes sense. Come on. Everyone knows it. And assuming nothing horrible happens, he will continue to be number 1. He is used all the time in their offense. Like, let's just be real here. Number 2 is George Kittle, because it's George Kittle. He's very, very skilled. He's very good. You'd almost be insane not to put him at top 5, but you know, here we are. I'm kidding, but also partly a little bit not, because I mean, look, the man, when he is on the field, he is making plays and he is doing so much for his team. Oh man, him and McCaffrey, it's almost like crazy. You almost think of like, who's the best skill player on their team offensively? It's like between him and McCaffrey, which is just crazy. Number 3, we're going to go with Kyle Pitts, because I think that if they can just get the football to him, he's going to put up some big numbers, and I think it's going to be fun. I don't want the Falcons to do well, so if he doesn't, I'm not bothered. But yeah. And then number 4, we're going to go with TJ Hawkinson, because I guess we all just forgot that he existed or something. Is that it? Like, TJ
No.
Hawkinson for Minnesota, and he was very good for the Lions and did his job for Minnesota. And while I think their offense is going to dip this year than what it was last year, come on, I think he's going to be top 5. And then Dallas Goedert being number 5, because even though he may not be listed in a lot of the fantasy rankings as a top 5 tight end, all of that, he is at least top 10 in my opinion. And the Eagles are like to use Dallas Goedert. Like, let's be real here. They like using him a lot. So I'm going to put him at 5. And that is my top 5 tight ends.
Yeah, I think the Hawkinson one is interesting. I reluctantly did not put him in my top 5 because I have an extraordinarily high amount of hope in Evan Ingram. If I did not, he probably would have made it in my top 5. I think that currently he is now operating out of a better offense in Detroit than what he had when he was in Minnesota, even with Justin Jefferson there. With how good they were last year, I think he's going to have more success with them. I just haven't seen him prove it yet, really, with the Lions, like put up like really, really monster numbers, like consistently. So that's really the only reason I didn't put him in my top 5. But don't get me wrong, he has definite potential. I mean, like I said, once you get past tight end 7, 8, there's a huge drop off. So he's definitely within that like sphere. I just don't know if I'd put him in mine, but I think it's respectable putting him in yours, though. I mean, he's obviously talented, and I still could not believe they did an intra-divisional trade of him to the Lions. That was crazy to me.
The Lions.
That's fair.
It's the Lions. What more can you do from them? They'll surprise you.
They have been bad for like almost forever, so.
I mean, they got rid of Jamal Williams, and he's on the Saints now after having a monster year. You would think they would keep him, but
evidently not.
Just like the Panthers, get rid of your best player. I think this is a good. I think this is a good list. I'm very surprised you didn't put Mark Andrews down, considering that you have Baltimore Ravens for your background, and. Like Mark Andrews, yes, he came off of injury, but we put Kittle up there. You put Kittle up there, who's injury prone last year, and I think Mark Andrews deserves a higher ranking than Hawkinson or even Pitts at that point, because Pitts is coming off of his third year, is going to be his third year now, and Pitts, he hasn't proven himself as much because obviously they're needing a quarterback, but I'm surprised. I'm very surprised about this list. Hawkinson, in the past, I've watched him, and he has been thrown to and has dropped a few balls in the end zone. I remember screaming at him, "What are you doing?" When literally the ball hits him right in the hands and he just drops it. I'm just like, you got traded. I know why. So, but Goddard, I think he will be a great fifth, but the thing is, like I said, with their offensive and defensive coordinators, these plays will be different. I'm not sure if they're going to be targeting him as much. Like they said, you have AJ Brown, you have Devontae Smith, you have all these players out there. Who is he going to throw to? AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, or Goddard? And these guys have a potential high offensive potential. So that's something that might be risky in a way, but I think it'll be solid.
Well, there you have it. There's everybody's picks for their top 5 in fantasy production for these positions. And so let us know in the comments what you guys think about our picks. And feel free to call us, and tell us how dumb we're being. Actually, please don't. Please be nice. We don't appreciate the meanness.
I can't wait.
Chris P has to be welcome to the podcast somehow. I'm sure he will get the most roasts.
I can't wait to make the Eagles cry again.
You're gonna have all of Philadelphia hate you.
That's fair.
I don't burn down my city. I'll just say that.
Yikes.
Kansas City still standing.
Kansas City still exists to this day and is flourishing.
Hey, I didn't have a riot after they lost. That's bad sportsmanship. Just saying.
Can't really argue that.
Okay, on that note, before we get canceled by Philadelphia Twitter, let's go ahead and lead us in the outro. Chelsea, you want to lead us out here?
Yeah, of course. So thanks for listening, guys. Tune back in next week for more content. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at LaunchCodesFB and on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at LaunchCodesFootball. I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Chris.
And I'm Chris P.
And we will see you next week. Later.
See ya.